Rule number one, don't open the door.
I need a little more up top and a little less down below.
Amber alert. Oh God, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. In orbit of Uranus.
It smells.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Oh, no, you love me. You know you love me.
Just don't let it touch the...
You know, that's great, but give me a little more.
Why? Why are you shooting at me?
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, and welcome out there in podcast and YouTube land. We are so glad to see you. You have reached a little thing we like to call Johnny Has the Keys. What does that mean? That means you've got two guys that talk about horror movies, science fiction movies, key influences on those particular movies, and then things that those movies in turn influenced. So the key elements or aspects of it. We give you our opinions and we kind of solicit yours and want to hear what you think. We are in our 6th season now, which is awesome. If you're joining us for the first time, please subscribe down there. Click on the little bell so you get notifications. Let us know you're there. Give us a review. Go to Apple, and give us a review there. That always helps us reach out and get more people. And if you are returning, we're so glad you're back and with us as we foray into the 6th season. My name is David, here with my good friend Tim. Tim, how are you with the creatures behind you and everything?
Oh, there's zombies behind me.
There are zombies behind you.
You know what that means.
Yeah, I know what it means. It's going to be one of those days.
Oh, yeah. But before we get there, I guess I should talk about my genre week and what I watched. And it's kind of related. I watched a movie called Deadstream. It's playing on Shudder.
Okay.
And one of our listeners suggested it to me. So I was like really hesitant because it's found footage, and you know how I don't like found footage movies. Mm-hmm. Here's the background. It's okay. It's kind of a comedy horror. I love the premise. I really like the premise. Basically, the synopsis is a disgraced internet personality attempts to win back his followers by live streaming one night alone in a haunted house. But he accidentally pisses off a vengeful spirit / demon, and his big comeback becomes a fight for his life to survive in what I think it's more of a demonically possessed house than a haunted house. It is so clear that this movie is trying to do what Evil Dead did, especially with the Evil Dead second movie, where they kind of make it funny too.
Yeah, add the humor.
Right. Very scary, very funny. It was directed and written by a husband-wife team named Joseph Winter and Vanessa Winter. Mm-hmm. And they both play parts. Joseph is actually the lead in it, and she plays a smaller part. It's got some funny moments, and I would definitely say if you want to watch a fast found footage indie, sure, go for it. Would I say it's fantastic? No. But I do see where they're going, and maybe they'll do another movie that's even better. It scored 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is another reason why I thought, okay, maybe Holly's right. I'll give this a go. Anyway, it's on Shudder. It's called Deadstream, and if you want to watch it, go watch it.
Well, can I ask, the graphic says a Shudder original. Is it literally a Shudder original, or is that what the same? Are they doing the same thing Netflix used to? With
I honestly think
they bought this property and now it's ours.
I think that's it. I think it's the Netflix thing. I have a feeling it's probably good to indie people out there because all of a sudden their movie gets snatched up and is actually being shown on a platform.
Well, of course. Yeah.
I don't think it was. Yeah, it was definitely not produced by Shudder. Someone made this movie and Shudder bought it, I'm sure.
Cool.
Or leased it, or whatever it is they do to be allowed to show it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what I did.
mine was not as exciting, and a lot of times I don't tend to do the new because I'm so picky about science fiction, especially, but or sometimes horror, but definitely science fiction. I started to do Arc, that new sci-fi original series,
Hmm.
and I just couldn't. I watched the trailer again and went, no, I'm going to have to be in a really bad mood to watch this just so I can appreciate it because it just looks so bad. But I think I mentioned it on Coming to Get You a few, at the end of last season or something. But it's
I've
still
definitely
out.
heard of it somewhere.
It's still out and it's still there and it's still doing its, teens in trouble on the spaceship sort of thing story. But so no, I didn't watch that, but I did revisit Westworld again. I
Again?
was again. I love it. I cannot. I had finished Picard and appreciated what they tried to do, but couldn't get behind the whole fandom thing about it. In certain places, I do think the third season was the best of the 3 seasons of Picard. And
The
very
third
next,
season, this recent one?
yeah, and
Okay.
the third and final season of Picard. And I thought that they were very, paid tremendous homage and Easter eggs to the next generation, of course, even bringing back the cast and doing all those things that they
I
did.
saw something last night in People magazine where LeVar Burton's back without the visor.
Yes, well, all of them are. The entire
Okay.
original cast is back.
Wow.
So and they have some really good scenes, some really good stuff. But it kind of reminded me of best television, and we have our sister podcast with the Dilithium Chamber, which is to me the best television series ever, which is original Star Trek. And I've always said that Westworld to me is the third, Babylon 5 second, Westworld third. Westworld and Picard started out okay, got really bad in the second year, and picked up in the third season. And Westworld was the opposite. Westworld was brilliant almost every minute, every episode of the first season. The second season was a little less, and you were going, kind of see what you guys are trying to do, but it didn't really work for me. Third season was really not good, and fourth season was terrible. And all these fans were clamoring about you HBO, you ended it too soon, and we need a season 5. We need to see. I was going, no, please God, no. I probably ripped my own eyes out. And that's so sad that a series that to me is the third best television series in history within 4 years could, fall to being just horrible.
Well, it's because the original creators left, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
they basically left the last season and a half, and were on other projects and doing other things, and it just didn't have the same feel to it. But I still highly, highly recommend anybody watch the first season of Westworld. It's hard to find now because HBO took it away. You heard the big controversy when HBO was bought before they became Max. They took a lot of their series, and not only did they cancel them, so even though the contract was for a 5th season of Westworld, they canceled the 5th season. And not only that, they took the entire series off their platform so they wouldn't have to pay residuals to the cast and the crew and
Right.
everything else, which was just a crappy thing to do.
I think there's a lawsuit going on, isn't there?
Hopefully.
Yeah, where they're like suing because HBO's purposely taking money out of their pockets or something.
They definitely
Yeah.
should. But then but now it's been picked up by like Tubi and Vudu and a couple of the other kind of subliminal
Well,
subsidiary sort of these cable-y network streaming services that now
Tubi is free with ads. Vudu you actually have to pay for, like to rent movies or whatever.
I watched it because I own it digitally. I bought the
Okay.
first 2 seasons, so I have those. So that's what I watched. But I know that you can find it out there on a couple of the streaming platforms, whether you subscribe or not. I don't know which ones, but But again, so me, Westworld, and you, found footage. I can't believe you delved into a found.
I
footage.
know, and a comedy horror too. It's like a
Yeah.
double whammy. Ugh. I did want to touch back. You mentioned that Picard was not so great the first season, terrible the
Mhm.
second season, and then great the third season.
Mhm.
That's kind of mirroring what the original Next Generation did, isn't it? Didn't you tell me it got better as it went?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually. And the guy that is the big showrunner, last name is Matalis, and he worked on Next Gen and worked on Deep Space Nine. And you can tell he loves Star Trek. Whereas I do not think Akiva Goldman and does like Star Trek, even though he's the new, great bird of the galaxy. I think he wants a different Star Trek, a agendized, sort of preachy Star Trek. And not that Star Trek, the original series or Next Generation, was not preachy at times. It was, but it did it with characters and did it with unique plotting and stuff, as opposed to the way Discovery is. I do not like Discovery at all. And I didn't like the first two seasons of Picard.
I was going to say Akiva Goldsman did Strange New Worlds, though, didn't he?
No, the other one did Strange New Worlds.
Okay, because Strange New Worlds, as far as I'm concerned, is the best one to come along since the original Star Trek.
Agreed. Totally agree. I think the guy that did Strange New Worlds is Chabon. I think.
Okay. Well, that makes sense because that Goldsman guy has done a lot of shitty stuff. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he did the Dark Tower.
These are great segues. We've got shitty stuff. No, just kidding. We've got comedy and horror together. We've got.
I was talking about a movie with the word "dead" in it.
Yeah, and we've got dead happening all around us.
Oh my God! Here we go.
What are we doing this week, Tim?
This week we are talking about 2004's remake of Dawn of the Dead. Well, Zack Snyder. We've talked a lot about Zack Snyder in the past.
Uh-huh.
He came on the scene with this movie in 2004. He had only done music videos prior to this, so this was his first feature. I think this movie's pretty good. I'll say that right now. It's not perfect by any means, and it is nowhere near the original. But then he did 300 in 2006, which I liked. And then he did Watchmen in like 2009, which to me is his peak. And then everything else is just downhill. He's a lot like a modern John Carpenter. He had some great movies, and then it's like, what the fuck happened?
That's an interesting key there. That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and now he's kind of, in some people's opinions, thought to be the anti Kevin Feige. Feige lifted Marvel up to the gods, whereas Zack Snyder has kind of drugged the DC universe down into the gutter. Yep. So anyway, that's enough on him. This movie, Dawn of the Dead, oh my God. When I heard they were doing a remake of it, I was both extremely excited and extremely scared and worried about it. I was like, oh, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Because that movie's sacred to me. The title alone is one of my favorite titles. I think Dawn of the Dead is one of the best titles out there. Then, of course, 28 Days Later came out in 2002, 2 years prior. So what Zack decided to do, I'm going to make the zombies fast in the remake, which George Romero said, no, you can't do that. But I think he actually ended up retracting that and saying it was okay to do that. But at first, George Romero was vehemently against it because it, did not jibe with his original vision.
True.
Do you want me to do a synopsis real quick?
Whatever you want, dude.
Well, basically, you have a young nurse, Anna, She's working in the hospital. Little things are hinting at what's happening around her. She goes home, has a nice evening with her husband. The next morning, the next door neighbor, a little girl, shows up in their bedroom and attacks the husband. These zombies turn immediately. He attacks his wife. She locks herself in the bathroom. She ends up escaping. And one of the better parts of the movie, as far as I'm concerned, is this whole beginning. I love how it plays out in the beginning. I was really jazzed when I first saw it because I thought, oh, wow, this is all happening really fast and really great. Then they end up having her get to this mall. She meets a cop first who is kind of the Ken Foree character. His name's even Kenneth, and some other people, and they end up in a shopping mall, very much like the original movie, only there's more people involved. There's the security team that works at the mall. There's eventually a truck that needs shelter that kind of crashes into the mall, and they save those people. So it ends up having a larger cast, but it does not end like the original movie at all. It ends with a big plot to escape to a boat and to an island, which is mentioned in the original movie, but actually kind of carried out in this one if you watch it through the entire credits. And I'll just leave it at that, and we'll talk about it. But what is your first experience with this movie?
I do remember seeing it, not when it first came out, but sometime after that. And the only impression I got that I remember from it was the baby scene. I remember the baby scene as being very unique, very different, very tense, and everything else. But that's really all I took out of it. So it didn't impress me very much at all. Watching it this time, you kind of touched on all the elements of it that I take umbrage with, or that I have issue with. First of all, it's Zack Snyder, and I've come to the conclusion that I don't like Zack Snyder.
He's not very good.
Watchmen is great. Watchmen is very good. The 300 is a gimmick. I want to watch it again to see if I like the story, because I did like the style. I liked the slow motion battles. I liked it reminded me of Rodriguez doing Sin City. You know, that kind of real stylized sort of cinematography, which that's a gimmick. If your story works too, yay. But if it doesn't, then it's just a gimmick. I agree with you that the beginning of this one is excellent.
Excellent.
It is. Now, well, wait, let me go back one step. So I was nervous when I first saw it, and I was nervous looking at it again this time because we both love the original. George Romero's original Dawn of the Dead is one of the best horror movies ever made. It's just so good. Why? Because of the layers in it. Because not just zombies eating people, it's what he's saying about the people, what he's saying about
society, it's the race and class issues,
commercialism,
consumerism, yes,
all of that. There's these themes that run through it, and the way he does stuff. And when he does the humor has a reason to be funny. You know, showing a guy walking, a zombie stumbling down the up escalator kind of thing says a lot about, the situation, so to speak.
I mean, even the pie fight is, you think it's funny at the time, and then you realize, wow, are we really just to that point where we
deteriorated that?
We're just disgracing the dead or whatever.
And this movie, directed by Snyder, written by James Gunn, who's another person I don't like, just doesn't work for me after the beginning. It just keeps getting worse and worse. I love the beginning. As a matter of fact, one of my keys is a novel written by you for the beginning. The feel of that suburban horror, and it's happening. You're watching people across the street run and scream, or being drugged from their houses, or everything. It was terrifying to me and was just great. And the ambulance hit, that's one of the best car hits I've ever seen as a stunt. It was great. And the the little girl with half her lips chewed off, and just Anna's whole escape. Other than the fact that we can transform instantly into frickin' zombies, other than that one little facet, the whole opening from the hospital to, oh, I'm home with my hubby, let's make love, let's just spend the night together. The next morning, hi honey, how are you? Boom, attacks husband. Oh, I gotta save him. And then
and she's a nurse. I love that she's a nurse, and she's like trying to put pressure, and it's clear that he is bleeding out fast.
Oh, fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did and that was the homage to the original. She did the whole neck bite sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the first big, huge scare in the original, is that woman that husband biting his wife's neck open in the hotel hallway, kind of thing. But the movie just deteriorates so fast, and one of the key deteriorations of it is he's not playing anything. One of the things that your novel does that I really like, one of the things that Walking Dead does, one of the things that the best, undead movies do, is they talk. We're more afraid of the humans than we are the zombies after a while. There's none of that in this. This is not humans against humans. This is humans against zombies.
It is a little bit with CJ and the
It was
the
going
guards.
to be, but then they suddenly halfway through decided to change their villain into a hero, and suddenly he's not a bad guy anymore.
I actually don't mind that.
I
like his arc. I do like his arc and how he ends up being the guy that sacrifices.
If there were other villains for him to fight, and suddenly he steps up and becomes the hero with his community against that community, I could see that. But as it is, it comes out of really nowhere. Suddenly he and the other guy are standing there, and they're going to help this guy go into the parking garage and get the generator. And you're going, why are they helping him to begin with? What does it matter? What do they care? And there's not a lot. And the fact that I couldn't, other than CJ and Anna, and Kenneth, right? Kenneth
is Ving Rhames. Yeah.
Okay. That's it. There's way too many characters in this movie for you to care about, as far as the core group goes, because they just keep getting more and more people. At one point, I think there's like 9 or 10 of them.
There's a lot. It's like they're wanting more. It's like the Friday the 13th thing. They need more victims or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which they, don't have to do. There's a better way to tell that story. Go back to your original.
And bring a motorcycle gang in. Someone come. Yeah, I agree. I don't know why they changed that. I don't know why they had to have fast zombies either.
Well, that was the other thing too. I'm not a big fan of the fast zombies in general. I think they can, for a while, they can be terrifying, but then it gets old pretty fast, and it also doesn't make sense that people get away. There were so many times in this movie where people are climbing over or through stuff, and I was going, your leg is freaking bitten, man.
No
just
shit.
Just like in the original, your leg is, but they don't. They have, even
it's so funny fast, that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about it in the shower this morning when I do my best thinking. I'm usually like, what are we recording today? Refresh my mind. And I started wondering, why don't fast zombie movies work? And some do. And I've decided that, well, first of all, it's just a no-win situation.
Correct.
I mean, you can't get away from a mob of fast zombies. You're going to get mowed down.
Yeah.
So the only reason it works in like the first Danny Boyle movie, 28 Days Later, is they take it out of the city. It starts in London, but then it goes out in the country, where things are more
location.
Right. Yes. And it's more sparse, and you don't have as many zombies. And that makes it a little more realistic. When you're in Milwaukee, or Madison, it's in Wisconsin, wherever they're at.
Milwaukee is this one.
Yeah. There's too many zombies. and you just could never get away. And that's why I'm like, the whole thing at the there are parts of this movie that I do really like, and there are parts that I really hate. And part that I really hate is their escape when they're trying to drive those 2 buses through this sea of zombies.
No way it would work. No way it would ever work.
It wouldn't.
My first note on that was, okay, if these zombies in this horde can actually move the trucks, because they're pushing the trucks, almost toppling them over.
Right.
kind of thing. I said, they could have easily gotten through a bunch of freaking glass doors at a mall.
Yeah.
There's
True.
because they do nothing to protect themselves in this mall. They basically expect the doors. What I loved about the original was, how do we turn this into a fort? That became a cool little subplot sort of thing. And then that's our home now. How do we protect it?
Well, and they
how do we defend
camouflage
it?
where they're at so that if somebody does get in the mall, they won't know they're there. And I love that too.
That was a great element. Because they knew, one of the things, again, there's layers and texture and depth to it. They start thinking, it's not the zombies we got to worry about. It's somebody else getting in here wanting our stuff.
Right.
And so they protect themselves, and they do that. One of my favorite scenes from the original is after they've done all of that, and then they kind of have what I call the party sequence. They kind of have that montage where they're doing the things they love. The one guy's cooking and the other guy's painting, and they're doing the stuff, arcade and all that. And then the one guy's playing tennis on the roof, and the ball goes ding, 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 and we follow it fall off the roof, and it goes boom. And as soon as it lands, there's just zombies everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a corpse. It's
reminded of it, and it works so well. And in this, he tries to do that with the whole Ving Rhames and the sign, and he holds the sign up, starts with his boots and the sign, and follows him as he walks to the edge of the roof, and we're behind him, and we pan up, and we pan to his sign, and we go up over his sign and suddenly see the parking lot, and there's 7 billion zombies there.
That's too many.
And it's supposed to have this oomph to it, and it doesn't. We literally just don't care, really.
Nah.
And I just think it has some huge problems.
It does. Let me do a little bit of background, and we'll talk scenes.
Sure.
This movie was budgeted at $26 million, and like I said, it was his first movie. All he had done was music videos for like Rod Stewart and a few other people.
How'd he get that job?
It grossed $60 million in the U.S. and Canada, and it opened up. The opening weekend was over 26 million. So he made the money back in 2 days, and then went on to more than double the profit. And the gross worldwide ever since is over 100 million. So this movie made a lot of money. I think a lot of that has to do with George Romero's movie, because people wanted to see a remake of George Romero's movie. I think no one knew.
Well, we already saw a remake of Night of the Living Dead, which I went into skeptical too, but loved it. I thought Savini did a good job.
He did a decent job. Yeah, it was okay. Anyway, those are the stats on it. You said,
Snyder's,
was written.
I mean, my research has said Snyder's planning Battle of the Dead.
It's a sequel to the Army of the Dead, though,
which we already reviewed in a separate Patreon thing.
Yeah, we did that in a bonus episode, and it's terrible.
It is so bad.
Yeah, it's like this times 20.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
With mutated zombies, and I hate that shit. It's like a video game.
Exactly.
Like you said, this is written by, what's his name? James Gunn. And I don't mind James Gunn. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And I do think some of the humor that was probably his ad was funny. I do love when they're like naming celebrities and shooting zombies that look like celebrities. I think that's pretty funny.
Good scene. I mean, as far as, yeah.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds. Like I said, Romero had reservations, but ended up being impressed by the film. One of the things I thought that was interesting about this movie is it's shot chronologically, and it wasn't done because it wasn't done intentionally. It was done unintentionally because he didn't know how to make a movie, and they had to tell him, "You don't do that."
Maybe why the budget was so high.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. That's really all I have as far as production information. We can talk about scenes. We've already talked about the opening. I think the opening's the strongest thing about this movie. Even the hospital scene where shit's happening and you know what's going on, but they don't. I love that.
Even the last guy, as she is leaving, the last guy on the gurney being wheeled in is bitten on the neck. I took the note and I went, "Oh, that's the little neck bite thing." And then later on, they do the with her husband, they do the other neck bite. But
and she goes out to the ambulance, and the EMT's on the bed and sits up and looks like a zombie, but he's not.
Yeah, he's just
love that
napping.
shit.
Yeah. That was that whole sequence. Well, my scenes, I think I've got 5. I would say the opening credits are cool because they do them in that montage kind of thing, but that's after the opening. The opening is really good. Then they do the credit sequence, which is the montage of newsreels and what's happening and riots, and it kind of sets up the whole, exposition sort of thing. The baby, of course, just because it is such a weird scene that is coming from the minute you see that she's pregnant. This is going to happen.
Which is actually, Franny's pregnant in Dawn of the Dead too.
Right.
Yeah.
But the way they do it with, her being bitten, him trying to keep her alive, the baby obviously being, infected sort of thing, all that whole sequence.
I like that concept, but it's not fleshed out enough for me. I don't understand how it works. I think the mother would have died first, and then the baby would have ate its way out or something. I don't know. But the mother doesn't really die until the baby's being born, and the baby's already dead. So it's just, you know what I'm saying? I have some logic issues with it.
Well, I have logic issues of why you would do that. Why his motivation? I
totally agree.
Freaking clue about.
No, I totally agree. I think that was a bad move. I think he should have just killed her, or they should have found her and killed her.
And we've done too many action sequences and stuff without any character development whatsoever. We don't know these people or why, and just when we think we might, he breaks the scene and goes to another action sequence of something. When we kind of see that there's a romance starting to work between the hero liar guy. He was in the other group. And
you're talking about Michael. You're talking about the guy from The Cell.
Yes. Yeah.
Jake Weber played him. Yeah. He kind of has a romance with the nurse.
Maybe, we think, but we don't know, but we don't get to it. Yeah.
They whatever. Kiss. Yeah. That's it.
You have a huge potential with Matt Frewer and his daughter. And we go through it in like 3 minutes and we're done. And, we need to know, why would you ever want to have this baby if your wife has been bitten or your girlfriend has been bitten? Why would you? There's no reason for it. It makes no sense. And if you're going to do all this gore, and some of the gore, and it's really good, by the way, some of the makeup effects are really good. But if you're going to do all that gore, have that baby eat its way out. I mean, come on. Yeah. You would have gone down in history.
Yeah. I mean, because the concept is great. I had problems with the execution.
Agreed.
As far as logic, I was like, I think she would have died first.
Yes. And there would have been the whole, she would either, but see, he has the problem because he's already established that people die and literally within a minute they turn.
Yes. And she does. Yeah. While she's having the baby or whatever. Yeah.
And he wants that scare of the husband with his head on the belly while she suddenly sits up in the back kind of thing. He wants that fear shot kind of thing, but it didn't make sense. And it didn't make sense that even after the baby was born, he would defend it by killing people just to defend the baby. That was a weird scene. But anyway, it was one of my favorite scenes. And then the ending credits, because it's such a bleak way to end the movie, which I think is memorable and cool. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense because there's no way in those situations you would actually have your camera out and be filming it. Not with fast zombies. With slow, I could understand. You might pull a camera out and shoot some stuff. But with these things literally running towards you, you're not going to be looking around and catching the shot where Ving has his shotgun out and all that. No, you're not going to be able to do it.
You're making me wish I had paired this up with Diary of the Dead.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's the Romero found footage version of his like retelling of everything. Anyway, It's on our list. We'll get to it one day, but
Okay.
because they do have video cameras in it, but the zombies are slow moving. As far as scenes, the things that I like the most about this movie are, other than that terrific intro, and like you said, even the closing credits are really good. I like the homages that they do to even Night of the Living Dead. Like when she's driving out of her suburban, first of all, I love the shot of the suburban neighborhood, because as soon as you see all those houses so close together, you're like just so claustrophobic and thinking, oh my God, you would just be surrounded by zombies because there's so many houses.
Well, and that's a key. He definitely established that cinematic thing that he likes, where you are such a God POV and thing is happening, whether it's the car running or like near the end. After all that, we're showing the boat pull away and then all of these little hordes running toward the dock and everything. But we're like a mile in the air kind of thing. He likes that.
Yeah.
He does that in 300. He does that in... I don't remember him doing it in Watchmen, though. Yeah, he did it in Watchmen when they're in the owl ship up above. Yeah.
Well, and whoever did World War Z does something very similar, and I don't like that movie either.
No.
Like I said, I don't dislike this movie. I think that Zack Snyder did decent with this for his first film. And then I liked 300, and I really like Watchmen. Then, like I said, I don't know what happened. Something, I guess maybe he had a God complex and thought he could do anything.
I think
so. Anyway.
But you were saying scenes and you like the Suburban.
I like the homages they do for the Night of the Living Dead. Like when she is leaving that neighborhood and driving towards what eventually is the mall or town, you see a giant semi-truck crash into a filling station and it blow up. And that touches on what Ben is talking about in the original Night of the Living Dead. He witnesses a truck crash into a gas station. He ascribes it to Barbara. And so that was kind of an homage to Night of the Living Dead. Another thing was when she is stuck in traffic and somebody comes up and yanks her door open and tries to steal her car, and she slams on the gas, goes over an embankment and smashes into a tree. And I'm like, that makes so much more sense than the way Barbara crashed into that tree in Night of the Living Dead.
Yes. Yep.
That's a good and then, point. Of course, she wakes up and Ving Rhames is there, and that's how they end up together. So essentially, Kenneth finds Anna in her car, whereas Ben finds Barbara at the farmhouse. So there's a lot of Night of the Living Dead in the beginning of this movie and not Dawn of the Dead. So I thought that was cool. The things I don't like I did like the Matt Frewer family coming in. I love that horrible zombie woman that's so big they have to wheel her in a wheelbarrow. I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. Don't bring her in. Love that stuff.
Sorry, that's the decision that would have been made.
Yeah.
Do not bring her in. She will not survive.
There's a lot of Deus Ex Machina in this movie that bothers me.
Yes.
And it usually deals with zombies. Like when they're walking around in the underground thing, why is there a legless zombie doing monkey bars across the ceiling to jump down on that one security guy and kill him? It's like, where the fuck did that come from? I mean, it's like acrobat zombie all of a sudden.
I've got that, and I've got, okay, if this was here the whole time, why haven't you guys used it before? Why didn't you go and get this guy out before you got 7,000 zombies in the frickin' parking lot?
Well, and that's the whole thing, is there's nothing down there until that guy gets attacked, and then a whole bunch of them come running in.
Yeah.
And they're like slamming up against the fence and having to torch them and stuff. And I'm like, it's like zombies don't come unless you need them to in your script.
Oh, wait. Yeah, we're talking about two different things. Yes, I agree with you there. Deus Ex Zombies or whatever, because
you just invented a word. Deus Ex Zombies. That's it. Exactly.
The garage fight is the one where suddenly, except for the dog, which we see and hear in flittering little scary moments, all these zombies are suddenly silent around the corners everywhere. What are they doing? Just sleeping, resting,
Exactly.
waiting? And then
They're
suddenly
waiting
come
for you to make a
charging around?
noise, and they're going to come running.
Right. But then my reference too was also to later on when they decide to go into the sewers to go over to the gun shop. And I'm going, okay, why didn't you just do that freaking before? Why did you even send the goddamn dog? Why didn't you just go there and get the guy?
I thought the exact same thing. Why didn't they do that before?
Yeah, it's just because, again, it's plot convenience. All of this is plot convenience, and I think that's a screenplay issue. The screenplay says it's credited to James Gunn from a story by George Romero. I'm thinking that's original story by Romero. I'm thinking that's just homage to, you did the original, dude, sort of thing. Not that
I mean, the only thing that connects the two is that there's a mall. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. And there's no comment on the mall. It just happens to be the place we can get to right now.
I also have never seen a mall built on a city block where like a mall or like across the street catty corner is a gun shop. I'm like, first of all, the original Dawn of the Dead would have never had a gun shop in a mall. I've never seen that either. So I gave them that. At least Zach decided, let's take the gun shop out of the mall and put it across the street.
Yeah.
Make a little more sense. But, malls are set back. They're too big. They have expansive parking lots. This looks like it's on the corner of a city block because there's other buildings across the street from it.
Yep.
And I thought, that's not right. That's weird.
And within minutes of leaving the mall, after we get through a horde of 7 million zombies and we throw one canister of propane at them and get away, they're suddenly in the middle of the city. So they are right there in a city block. And I agree with you. That just didn't make sense. That was weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of logic issues in this. Any other scenes?
No, there are no other good scenes in this. There are. I think there's so many, could have beens. The whole thing about we're going down the sewers now. You need to stay here with so-and-so, the preacher guy who has the boat. You need to stay with him. And, in case because he says the line, I thought the line was pretty cool. He says, we may not come back alone, sort of thing. And the guy goes, well, I don't stay here. Why can he leave and I can't, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you stay here. You come with us. And we know immediately, okay, when they get back, that door's locked. We know that dude's not going to let him in.
Which is out of Night of the Living Dead. It's Henry Cooper.
Right.
Or Harry Cooper. Yeah.
Yeah, which would have been cool, but they do nothing with it because they're being chased by these fast zombies. So they have no time to think, react, do, blah, blah. They have to run down. Dude is at the buses. And they say, we'll talk about this later, basically, and throw him in, and we keep going. And they do nothing. There's so many setups in this that nothing happens.
Where Night of the Living Dead, Ben confronts Harry Cooper and socks him in the face.
And somebody should have. You also have, to your point, more zombie stuff. We have dude gets out, gets bitten, immediately turns. Anna gets out. Nobody's there. She walks around the corner a little bit. Nobody's still there. Then suddenly, bad preacher guy comes running. I don't even know his name because I don't know these characters.
He's not a preacher. He's a gay organist.
But he was dressed like in the black like a minister is what it reminded me of.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about the little old man that came in the truck?
No, about the gay organist. I'm talking about the gay organist.
That's the little old man that came in the truck.
No. Sorry, not him. The guy in black who owns the boat. That's
Steve, and he's played by Ty Burrell. Yes, that's Steve. He's like the dick. That's the Harry Cooper of the gang that locks them out. Yes,
right. And he comes around.
He's not a preacher. He's like a sleazeball.
Yeah, Ving Rhames shoots her. Zombies start coming from everywhere. They have time to run to the bus. She has time to run halfway there, then run back, get the keys, and run all the way. I'm going, there's no damn way.
Yeah.
Once you set up fast zombies, you cannot win.
No, and
And
either
all of your
Steve,
sequences end up have to be designed to be very clever, or they make no sense.
yeah, and I know why you're calling him preacher because he does wear black, but Steve is the dick with the boat that they're going to for. And either he or Anna, I cannot remember, in that scene where the bus is turned over, before they get attacked, blood drips on their hands and the zombie is above them. I can't remember if is it Steve above her or is it a zombie above Steve?
It's a zombie above Steve because he gets out and he's closed the door on her even, and it drips on his hand. And
it attacks him, and then, of course, he ends up attacking her later. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. It attacks him. Then it cuts to Ving, I think, for a second. Then at the other bus. Then it cuts back to her, and she's opening the door and climbing out, and he's not there. And neither is the other zombie. Neither one of them are there. What the hell's going on? You just drag the body somewhere? I don't, it just, Deus Ex Zombies. I mean, it just happens all over the whole thing.
Agreed. I think that it plays out better in the beginning in that opening scene where things do make sense. Like I love while she's driving away, her husband is chasing after her like a madman, and then he just sees somebody off to the right and just veers off. It's like, fuck her, I'll go eat this guy. Excuse me.
And I've got in my notes the crap with Andy. I knew Andy because he's the gun guy.
Right.
The crap with Andy and the dog was really abrupt. And then with Nicole, it was even more abrupt. And I would have, if I cared more about these people, I might have liked this scene better.
I agree. And I don't get the whole dog thing at all. I think zombies would eat dogs.
I do too. Why wouldn't they?
Right. It's a living creature. And I mean, we've seen them attack horses in, Walking Dead.
Well, these aren't brains. They want flesh. That's what they eat. So, that's another Deus Ex Machina thing. It's like, oh, okay, we'll just make them not eat animals. Just let that dog go right across. I was like, no. Yeah.
But I do agree that I would be freaking out if they sent my dog out there. I'd be like, no, you don't. I mean, my book has 2 dogs in it, and I'm worried to death about them. I don't want them to get eaten.
Yeah.
I guess we could move on to cast, which is one of the strengths of this movie, by the way, is the cast.
I thought she was great, and I haven't seen her in anything else.
That's because she's a director.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Anna is played by Sarah Polley, and I have mentioned this a lot in past episodes whenever Sarah Polley's name comes up. She's an Oscar winner. She won for a movie last year called Women Talking that she directed. She is, I'm assuming, maybe Canadian because this was filmed in Canada. So maybe another reason we don't see her as often is that she's Canadian, but I could be totally talking out my ass. I just know that she is more of a director than an actress. Okay. So, when she auditioned, the producer, Eric Newman, pitched to her that this is going to mean suicide for your street cred. And she said it was the greatest pitch she ever heard, and she took the movie.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think she's great in it. I really like her in this movie.
Yeah, I think she's really strong.
When it was being developed, though, the producers had Diane Lane in mind to play her.
I can see that.
I could see that, too.
Yeah.
Ving Rhames plays Kenneth, who is not... who is intentionally, I think, named after Ken Foree because he's playing the major black man character in this film. We know him best as Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When Ving heard there was a remake being made of Dawn of the Dead, he tracked the producers down and said, I want to do this. So he was like... I totally get it. I mean, I can imagine that Ken Foree was a hero to a lot of young black kids when that movie came out, I'm sure.
Definitely.
So,
definitely.
Jake Weber Oh, it says Ving Rhames was always first choice for the part of Kenneth. I guess because he went for it. I don't know. Jake Weber played Michael. Now, Jake, I think, is Canadian. No, you know what? He's an English actor. Excuse me. He is British.
He's a very Tim Roth kind of look to him.
He does.
Reminds me of Tim Roth a lot. Yeah.
He does. And he's done some genre stuff. He did a Canadian movie that I like called The Wendigo. I haven't seen it in a long time, so maybe I don't like it now, but I used to like it. And he was in a movie we covered last season called The Cell.
Yes.
And I pointed out to you, that guy's in Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, I remember that.
So, but you want to take a guess at who auditioned for this role? And he's in a movie that you really like.
Keanu Reeves. No, I don't know.
Nathan Fillion auditioned.
Ooh, perfect. He would have been perfect.
Yeah, he would have been good too, I think.
Yep. He's really strong.
Mekhi Phifer plays Andre, the boyfriend of Ludo, who is the pregnant woman.
Okay.
I have always liked Mekhi Phifer. He was on the show ER, which we talked about last week.
Yeah.
It's produced by Spielberg and Michael Crichton. I had seen him for a long time. So like I said, there's 4 actors right there that I like, you know, in those first 4. And then another one, Ty Burrell plays Steve, the guy you see in that picture behind me in that killer zombie makeup. He went on just a couple of years later to be one of the leads on Modern Family.
Yeah, because he's the husband, right?
Phil Dunphy is his name, if I'm not mistaken. And he's hilarious on that show. And I thought he was great in this too. He's a total dick, totally opposite of what he plays on Modern Family.
Yeah, very self-serving, very hedonistic bad guy. Yeah.
Right. As a matter of fact, when they have the video camera in the credits, it's because it's on his boat and he's been filming himself having sex with women on his boat.
Of course.
So
that as though it were a bad thing. I don't understand. But anyway.
Yeah. So that's Ty Burrell. Michael Kelly played CJ. I think he's a really good actor. I looked him up and did not know him from anything, but he has a long list of credits. So he is like a really strong working character actor.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of a guy that was actually in The Walking Dead, but it's not the same guy. And then Kevin Zegers played Terry. He's the younger security guy that ends up with the girl whose dad died. The Matt Frewer character. You know what? Before we go there, Luis Ferreira played Luis, the husband, in the beginning. I thought he was one of the best zombies in this whole movie. The zombie husband that attacks Anna before she gets out of the house.
The beginning? Yeah.
Yes, I think he's fantastic. As a zombie, anyway. He's a television actor. Don't really know much else about him. And I've got other people, but Luda was played by Ina Korobakina, so I guess she may have really been Russian. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue in the movie, and she has a thick accent, but she is, of course, the pregnant lady. Did you notice cameos in this movie?
Well, I noticed that isn't that Ken Foree as a preacher?
Ken Foree does play an evangelist on television, and I think that's a great role for him as far as a cameo.
Great cameo. Yes,
yeah.
That was a great cameo.
Tom Savini also plays a sheriff.
He plays the sheriff that is almost like the burn 'em, they go up pretty fast kind of guy.
Beat them, burn them, they go up pretty easy. Yeah.
Yep.
The only thing about it is you can tell he has long hair and they're trying to pull it back. So he looks like he doesn't. But yeah, he's the sheriff. And then the third cameo was Scott Renninger. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he was in, I think, one of the televised news clips that we saw at the mall. And that's the guy that played Roger in the original, Roger. And I can't remember Ken Forehe's character now. But anyway, he was one of the SWAT guys, the little one that gets bit on the leg when he's climbing in the truck window.
Has the great blanket reveal.
One of the best zombies in the movie, for sure. For sure. Definitely. So that's, excuse me, all of the cast I have. As far as awards,
Mhm.
this movie was nominated for Best Horror Film by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. And it was nominated for a Best Makeup Award. Those are the Saturn Awards. The Bram Stoker Awards nominated it for Screenplay.
Bram
Cannes
Stoker.
Film Festival nominated Zack Snyder for Director. I know.
French.
And Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, of course, nominated for Best Wide Release, Best Actress, which I agree, Best Supporting Actor, Jake Weber, and Best Makeup. It is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die.
Nor should it be.
I don't think it should be either.
No.
So that's what I have as far as cast and awards.
Makes perfect sense. I
Yeah.
completely agree with that.
Do you have any?
And you didn't mention all the other ones, like, Old Geezer or Other Guards or whatever, because we don't even know their freaking names because they're such non sequiturs.
And I only remember CJ because he's the guy that I do like his character arc. He's a total dick in the beginning because he doesn't want them there. He's like, this is our mall. You don't belong. But then they end up overtaking him and end up needing him, and then he ends up becoming part of their gang and actually ends up sacrificing himself in the end so that they can get away. So he's got a good arc. What else? Do you have any trivia before we move on to keys?
No, not trivia per se, just, other irritants or whatever.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to vent them if you'd like.
No. Just, it's typical stuff. They have this whole thing of showing in the ending credits, they're showing like the engine have trouble or they run out of gas or blah, 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 or whatever. And I said, why is there any suspense? It's a sailboat. Why is there any suspense about them running out of gas? It makes,
so it has a sail. Yeah.
And Ving Rhames' favorite weapon seems to be the shotgun. That seems to be the most inefficient weapon to have with a zombie horde that's fast.
Agreed, man. You wouldn't have time to load.
No, you have to reload. You have to pump it. You have to cock it. Also, the fact that as they get closer, it doesn't work. The whole... I guess he wanted some kind of suspense for this whole last act, chase to the boat ramp thing, but it just didn't work for me from the beginning on. As soon as they showed these little Mad Maxy cars, that was my key. The whole get the buses ready is like a Mad Max. You want out of here, you come to me. Let's fix these cars up, and kind of go. It was that whole sequence to me. I thought it was clever, the whole thing about the chainsaw through the walls to cut people off the sides. That's kind of
until that old gay guy ended up hacking a woman in half with one by accident.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't start it inside the vehicle.
And I don't mean to be sound negative when I'm saying that old gay guy, but it's clear, like you said, that there's not a lot of character development in these minor characters. So all they did was throw out that not only is he a church organist, he happens to be gay. It's, I guess, to give him some depth. I don't know. It's not a lot of depth, though.
I would have stuck with the original group and leave it at that, and maybe add one other person, maybe two. So maybe it's Matt Frewer, and he's the guy that has a boat. But his daughter kind of forgets it because she's so upset because daddy died and you had to kill daddy, blah, blah, blah. But I would, so we know more story. We know Anna's story. She's a nurse. She had a husband. She lost the husband. She survived. We don't know Ving Rhames' story at all. We never find anything other than he has a brother that's at the fort nearby.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't know anything about Michael. Is Michael the good guy? The guy in white?
He's
literally in white for the whole show. So.
He's the one that says he's not a successful husband or whatever. Yeah.
Right. We get these one-note characters, backstories for these characters, and there's so many of them that we end up not caring.
But I actually liked Norma, the old truck driver woman. I thought she was pretty cool. But
again,
they don't use her.
So is a gay organist. He can be
Yeah.
cool too, but
He could be.
but they don't do anything.
There's
with
no
it.
depth at all. I agree. And it would be interesting to see a version that just had the original 4 and maybe the 3 security guards, and that's it. Just cut it off there. Yeah.
And you and I know, and maybe make one of the security guards is an organist who, that's what he does in his spare time or whatever. And he's gay. Go ahead and combine the character. I don't care.
Right.
But, people who listen to Johnny know that you and I both love good character stories.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a way to do that and develop it and have us care about these, so that when the hordes start attacking, we actually are emotionally invested in it. It's not just an action sequence where we're watching, oh, that's a cool chainsaw effect.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And when you want to turn CJ from a bad guy to a good guy, have it because they both have a common enemy, like a motorcycle gang coming to,
That's the point. And he suddenly realizes, wow, I was a dick the whole time because I could have been helping these people. And
Right. Yeah. And it would have also been more like the original movie, which would have, yeah. So, yeah. I have a few, before we get into keys, and honestly, I don't know that I have that many keys. Some more homages. I don't know if you picked up on these. When they're stocking up on ammunition in the store across the street, very lightly, you can hear the same music that was in Dawn of the Dead when they're in the gun store from 1978.
I did not notice it at all.
Yeah, it's very faint. Did you notice that one of the big department stores was named Galen Ross?
No.
Yeah, like instead of, I don't know, Neiman Marcus, it's Galen Ross, which is the actress that played Franny in the original Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. That's cool.
I thought that was pretty funny. And then the traffic copter makes an appearance. The WGON traffic copter that was the main transportation of the original Dawn of the Dead is
flies
somewhere.
Over. Yeah.
Other little trivia. Did you notice that the costume designer on the film was someone named Denise Cronenberg?
No, but is she related?
She's his sister.
Okay.
David Cronenberg's sister did costumes for this movie. And you know who one of the production assistants was?
No.
Heather Langenkamp.
Oh, wow. Really?
From Nightmare on Elm Street.
PA?
Yeah, well, I don't know if she was a PA, but she worked on this production because she does stuff behind the scenes as well as act.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband's a special effects guy, and she does things behind the scenes as well.
Right.
On movies. So I thought that was interesting. And then the only other thing I have is something really stupid about Christina Aguilera said that going after the dog was realistic, that she would have gone after the dog too. And I'm like, Christina, you wouldn't be in this scenario. You'd be dead. You'd be like,
oh. Yeah. So true.
He's
well, I mean, of course, we've stated a bunch already, but the obvious, of course, is the original Dawn of the Dead, the original before that, Night of the Living Dead, which, is kind of the birthmark, the birth pains of our podcast, sort of thing. I mean, I've got, of course, and you mentioned it, but not as a key really, but that it had come out, but 28 Days Later is such an influence on this movie.
Yeah, it's clear he wanted to do the same.
Oh yeah, and wanted it to be that way. Wanted the fast, the energy, the action, that kind of stuff with it. But he didn't invest enough in our characters so that we actually care about it happening.
He didn't, but he did do one thing that I kind of appreciate more. He didn't have all the frenetic camera cuts that Danny Boyle does. Sometimes 28 Days Later got really confusing because of those really frenetic cuts.
Shaky cams.
And in this one, they don't have it. Basically, if a zombie's running at you, you just see him run up and smash into a glass window or whatever. You don't have all those choppy cuts. So I kind of like that.
And this was before Snyder developed his whole, anytime we have a big action sequence, I'm going to have a slow motion part of it. There's a couple in this. But
is there? I don't even remember.
Yeah, there's one. There's the Ving Rhames cocking the shotgun and doing the whole turnaround all in slow motion.
Okay.
Sort of thing. uh, that becomes a huge staple or a key for Zack Snyder later on in all of his movies.
Well, and Army of the Dead would be a key as well because Ving Rhames basically evolves into Dave Bautista in Army of the Dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just doing that kind of story again. I've got, I mentioned already, Mad Max. The whole get the buses ready sequence is very Mad Max. Using
or Road Warrior. Yeah.
Yeah, Road Warrior. Yeah, more so.
I just had one and it just flew away.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say Day of the Dead as well because of when they go down into the parking garage. It reminds me of when they go down into those caves in Day of the Dead and where they herd the zombies for research purposes or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they're all obviously keys to George Romero films or zombie films.
I was going to ask you too. I'm sure there are others that I'm not thinking of that have this very bleak, actually everybody in the cast dies ending. I mean, Night does, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody we care about in Night dies. So he does that in this. I mean, the entire cast dies in that, but not in Dawn. In Dawn, they actually live.
There's a little bit of hope. Yeah.
Yeah. But are there other, like I haven't seen World War Z, but does everybody die at the end of it?
God, I don't even remember. And I've seen that movie twice, and every time I watch it, it just pisses me off. Back to Day of the Dead, those guys actually, I think, end up on an island. And it's funny how a lot of these people get the idea, let's get to an island. So, so it ends kind of happy, but I think it has a twist where there's like a jump scare or something.
And remember, if I remember correctly, Army of the Dead, his heist movie, they all die because Bautista turns in the end and his daughter has to kill him or whatever.
He does. You're right. So he won't be around for the sequel.
And the other guy is spreading the disease all over the Midwest or whatever because he got out of Vegas or whatever. It's stupid. Yeah, no. But,
I've repressed that movie. I don't remember a lot. It's very similar to World War Z, which World War Z would definitely be a key to this as far as masses of crazy fast zombies.
Agreed. I guess to my point, a key would be like 1984, a literary thing that ends with the people that you really care about dying. Your protagonist is killed at the end of the novel or at the end of the movie.
Well, I mean, if you want to go that far, you could say Drag Me to Hell. That girl died in it too.
Same thing. She goes through the whole movie and then goes to hell.
Right, where it's a bleak ending and the main character dies. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of them out there, but that's just one that came to mind because we've done it recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have a lot of keys, which I guess that may explain a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he could have, invested a little more depth in this with some, I don't know, with some plot devices from other classic films, or at least, was inspired by. I mean, other than just paying homage to Night of the Living Dead, which I do enjoy. I'm glad he did that, even more so than the Dawn of the Dead stuff.
But like, and the gore is good in this, but it's not memorable. It's not Savini. What made Savini work was, and to an extent, what makes Nicotero work is they want their makeup to mean something, to be memorable, to have, whether it's a machete in the forehead or, it's not just it's not just a typical gore effect. There's a memory to it or something. And other than the chainsaw across the girl's shoulder,
which was gnarly, man.
Yeah, there's not a lot of memorable gore in this. Even though there's a lot of it. There's a lot of headshots. There's a lot of body shots.
I did read where the special effects team took measures to do different colors of blood based on age of zombies.
Well,
like some of the older zombies, the blood was black, and some of the the lesser old ones, it was brownish. And then, of course, the fresh ones like Steve here, it's just bright red.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of cool. See, that's a good, actually, those two behind me right now, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's a good example of what I'm talking about. So, yeah, it did have really good effects, I thought.
Yeah. It's just that it went for, action and no character development over plot and, what makes Last of Us work. And even the girl with all the gifts is, to me, it's scarier when they're slower.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
Overall scarier.
It's the metaphor. They're always there. They're going to catch up to you sometime.
Yeah, it's when we did, It Follows. It's that same kind of feel of they're coming. Eventually, it doesn't matter how safe you make your place. Eventually, they will come.
Right, and there's a lot of not a lot, but there's CGI in this movie, and I don't recall a lot of CGI in zombie movies before this one. Not even in the Danny Boyle movies.
That's a good key. That's a good key. Yeah, definitely.
The especially the aerial shot that I was talking about, where you see the truck crash into the gas station, that looks very CGI to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those aerials look CGI. Yep. So anyway, out there, thank you guys for journeying through the hordes of zombies to listen to us or watch us today. We appreciate that. We again say the same things we always do, which is if you did like today's episode, we'd love to know what you think about it. Give us your reviews of Dawn of the Dead or Zack Snyder or James Gunn or any of that. Fast zombies versus slow zombies. What are your favorites? Sort of thing. Also, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us a review. If you want to give us even a 2 or 3 word review anywhere, it always helps and helps us spread the word about the podcast and get it out to other people. If you like us, we do have our webpage, johnnyhaskeys.com, which also has, and we also have a Patreon, which has a couple of other projects that we do. One is called the Dilithium Chamber, which is Star Trek, the original series.
Yes.
And the other, Tim has the list. Don't freeze frame there and read it. No. And then the other one we do is the X-Files Declassified, which is examination of the original X-Files series. And Tim, I guess until next time when we'll be somewhere different.
1950s sci-fi, baby. Cannot wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. See you guys then.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.